Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity Podcast, episode 277. And if you are listening on or near to the day of release, like I know many of you do, it's the 19th of December. That is why I am dressed like this. And that is why Pete, stand up, Pete, show him the jumper. If you've watched Die Hard, which is a Christmas movie, well, I don't know. We'll get onto that maybe. I'm sure Emma's got an opinion if it's a
Do you
Christmas
want to? Do you want
movie
us
or
to do
not.
the Alan Rickman impression as well?
Yeah, go on.
Because he reads it out, doesn't he? He
Yeah,
goes,
go on then.
"Now I have a machine gun."
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, oh, oh. That's what he does. There you go.
Hans Gruber. Emma, is
There's
Die
the
Hard
boy. There's little Siddy with a Santa hat on. So
excellent?
that was when he was 5 months old.
Emma, is Die Hard a Christmas movie or not?
Quintessential. Absolutely. 100%. Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
We're going to get on.
Brilliant. I agree. Brilliant. So yeah, it is the Christmas special. We'll have a double Christmas special because next week you'll be listening to us on Boxing Day while you're I don't know, while you're in the kitchen or whatever, doing something in the kitchen. You'll be listening
I can
to
categorically guarantee I will not be wearing a different jumper for that. It'll be exactly the same one.
Well, this is my backdrop from last year as well. You can.
It is. It is.
Yeah. It's
we won't hold that against you, though.
No,
well,
no.
Again, I'm with Emma because Emma said she's not overly Christmassy. So, this is great.
Yeah, I am. Anyway, as we've just already heard from her, we are joined by a very special guest today from Belfast in Northern Ireland, Emma Brennan. How are you doing, Emma?
I'm good, thanks.
Excellent.
Delighted to be here.
Excellent. So Emma is wearing a snow bunny jumper. So that's kind of like, I'd say it's more of a skiing kind of season wear, which is festive, which is winter anyway, which is good. Now Emma is the managing director of Iron Wolf Gym and apparel, and we're going to talk a little bit about academy stuff as well. Sports massage therapist, a personal trainer, powerlifting and strength and conditioning coach. Also, a competitive powerlifter herself, and mother of two, and all other things, which we're going to kind of talk about today in terms of how she fits it all in, like we often do when we have women on the podcast who spin many plates at once and do a lot of home stuff as well. And us men are very lucky usually, aren't we, Pete?
Yes.
Yes, we are. Okay. Well, Pete is the father to that lovely little spaniel behind him, Sid.
But fortunately, all he needs is a lot of walking. So
Okay.
I'm cool with that.
Excellent.
Except for on Monday when we got soaked.
Yeah, it's chucking it down here out there.
We got absolutely soaked. But anyway, I didn't hold it against him.
Excellent. So, Emma, welcome to the Health Oddity podcast. Thank you for coming on and making the time. So, as I know you are very, very busy. But we've obviously met the last 2 years in Iceland, haven't we, for the Magnus Classic, where you've been the kind of sports therapist out there for all the athletes in between events and things. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure to be invited over year after year. It's nice to feel that, whilst there's probably somebody in Iceland there that could do that job, that, Magnus has invited me over every year to help out, and I've been there each year. We started, how many years I'm going now? 4 years, 5 years, something like that. So Magnus originally came over here to do a seminar for us when I opened the gym. We got a really good friendship up then, and it just basically went from there,
Yeah.
I possibly invited myself the first year, I would say, cheekily, sort of suggested that, had he considered that he needed some, sports therapist to be there on hand, and somebody who's qualified medically, like to do first aid and stuff like that. And yeah, good. Thank goodness since then he's invited me back every year since. We've had some very interesting years, some very interesting injuries.
Yes.
You were there for some of them as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It's funny because that seems similar to what James did, getting in touch with Magnus and saying, "Do you need someone to drive the bus?"
Well, I've just been over the last 2 years. I think, like Emma said, she's been over the last 5. But I'm already thinking I'll probably go over again next year. I just enjoy being around everyone and enjoy being there. It's great fun, isn't it? So it's a great weekend, Yeah.
It's a fantastic event. And like all the athletes come along and they do it, and they may only ever do it once, or sometimes they've done it a few times, and they all come away saying it's one of their favorite events they've ever done, you know. So it's nice. It's good. It's a
No.
lovely feel good event and quite unusual as well, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So I suppose Emma, really, to begin with, I mean, as people can hear, and as I said, you are in Ireland there, you're in Belfast, and
Yeah.
how did you? Well, just tell us a little bit about your background, really, because I know, you got into sort of the fitness industry or the strength industry a kind of a certain way. But yeah, do you want to just kind of tell us a little bit about, yeah, your background in training, in health, in sport, and then how you came about, opening the gym and all these other things that you do, and kind of what order you went in and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I came to things a little bit late, but I feel like the journey that I took sort of culminated in me coming to this position at the right time. Um, my my original degree was in molecular biology, and I maybe lost the will to live in that and dropped out and went back and did a psychology degree. And I thought I was going to be this clinical psychologist and or a sort of a sports psychologist and work in that area and things like that. Ended up going down the whole psychology route and working in health psychology and research psychology. We did research papers in breast cancer, esophageal cancer. That health part of things was really important. And then research just dried up when austerity, the big austerity hit. And I had to look for alternatives, and I ended up taking a role in more like mental health and suicide awareness and suicide prevention. And that was wonderful, and I loved it. And I managed volunteer counsellors across Northern Ireland and their training and things like that. And I loved my job, and then made the decision to have a family and have my two babies. And that didn't work out so well. So when I returned to work after maternity leave, I had applied for a senior position, and I was told in an email that my maternity leave was somewhat of a career misstep, but in time I would be considered for these positions. And I took my case then to the Equality Commission, and I was out of work for a year. I could not get work. In fact, I think I was that devastated that I was in a position that I don't think I would have hired me either at that point. Do you know, I wasn't really hireable because I'd lost my whole world. I'd lost my reason. My career was I'd invested so much of myself into my career, and I loved what we did. It was mental health, suicide prevention. It was really quality work. And I was still training to be a counsellor myself at that stage. And over the course of a year, I went through a really tough time of being in court, back and forth to solicitors and out of work, and was really, really broke, and was literally taken aside by a friend to say, you will never get employed in this industry ever again. Go and find something else. Go and find something you love and go and do it.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, if I can't be an assistant director in this company, I will go and be managing director of my own, and retrained. So as an older student, I retrained in sports massage and PT, and set up my own business. And from there, because I had a background in training and things like that, I ended up starting up the training academy, thinking, you know what, I can help other people, especially people later in life that need a new direction, and start supporting people in that area. And that's what I did. So I started up my training academy, and that's what I did for a long time. I ran the training academy, and I loved being a tutor, and had based my business in different gyms and things like that. So you're very at the whim of the gym and the gym owners and things like that. And it wasn't great. So I decided, oh, do you know what I'll do? I'll open my own gym. Wouldn't that be fun?
So just
Open
for
your own.
the listeners, so the training academy that you started, you were training other people to be like fitness instructors, personal trainers, that kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, you were in. And when, just to go back quickly, because you said you were going to change career and you wanted to find something that you were passionate about, something you had an interest in. So were you, have you always been kind of interested in training? And have you done training in gyms and stuff like that? Even
Yeah.
when you had your previous job and before you had kids and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so training has always been a big part of my life. So when I was young, I competed in gymnastics. I was involved in swimming, netball, and then football as well. With loads of like photographs of me competing in, like in my little Man United football kit and all. Boo. But so like I was hugely into football. I was the only girl in the boys' football team. I got a week where I got to train with the Northern Ireland football team, and Alan McDonald, I don't know if you remember him from back in the day, but he took me under his wing for a week and he was fabulous. So like I I've always had a really strong connection to sport and sports psychology. I love the whole background to it. And at sort of like at that point when I was in transitioning from having this really stable career that I was going back to after my 2 maternity leaves to zero, like where do you start? Where do you pick a new career from? I had to just, it was a really dark day. Um, I think I phoned my husband. I said to him, I don't know if I'm safe. I think you need to come home. I'm not good. I'm not in a good place. And he said, I'll be there in an hour. I'll be home. I'm leaving work. I'm coming home. And that wee hour of me on my own, I can really remember it. I had my back to like the patio doors, the glass patio doors in our kitchen. And I could just feel the heat of the sun coming through. And it was just warming my back. And I just sat there and let the sunlight, the sunlight in. And I thought, I'm in a really dark place, but this is good. Sunlight's coming in. And I just thought, what do I love? What could I do for the rest of my life that I love? And that's it. And it was sport that came to mind. My unfettered love always came from, sport, physical activity, that kind of stuff, being out, being physical. And I just knew that's where I wanted to go. I would have to make my long-term career something around sport and fitness. It was where I always turned to for mental health support. That whole time that I was going through the court case, I was in the gym, I was training, I was thinking, and then it gave me this new drive to be like, I think in my head, I got to myself where I was thinking, oh, well, if I'm going to be in the fitness industry, I'm going to need to look like all those girls in the fitness industry. And, that was a little bit, that's its own conversation in itself.
Mm.
But yeah, so for a mum of two, just post-pregnancy and post-babies and baby brains and stuff like that there, again, I have had to develop a really healthy relationship with sport, fitness, nutrition. And I feel I bring that to the clients that I work with now. A really
Mm.
measured approach, as in, we're not here for the short term. I do not do transformational stuff. The most important thing in my life is making sure that people develop very healthy behaviors with the fitness industry, exercise, nutrition. And we're not in it for the short term, we're in it for long-term healthy behaviors, a long-term love and investment in your life.
Mm. And I think I remember when you just so that because the listeners, I'm sure they'll be wondering, when you told me, I think it was just in this last trip we had a few weeks ago in Iceland, when you said, oh yeah, and they said, well, you won't get that job because you've just been on maternity and that's not done you any favors kind of thing. And I kind of said, just they can't do that, surely, you're not allowed to because and so you did actually I think you did, don't you? You won the kind of court case, didn't you? Or you got
I accepted a settlement and used
yeah.
that to set up a new business, which was my training academy and the sports massage PT, all of
Mm,
that. Yeah.
mm, mm.
So my original name was Alpha. And the reason for that was I had a friend, and once I had settled my court case and we had sorted all of that, I suppose I need to be careful because I did sign an NDA as well.
Okay.
So, but all I've said there is the very basics of what the actual case is. Anybody can look it up.
Yeah.
But I my friend had sent me this message, and she basically sent me this wee thing saying, throw me to the wolves and I'll come back leading the pack. And that whole idea of leading the pack, so I went with Alpha, We also, on my course, we had a lovely guy. I don't know if you know of Seamus Heaney,
Oh yeah.
the poet, but his one of his relatives was on the course with me, and he was also trained to be a PT. He's called Paddy Heaney. He was a very famous Irish sports writer. And on the course, he had said to me, he's a great accent on him. He says to me, "Jesus Christ, girl, if there's ever an alpha female, you'd be it." And I says, yeah. So the whole alpha thing kind of came in. And so the whole thing was alpha training and all of that. So alpha was the name I used for a long time. And I went by alpha, really, felt alpha. But alpha became very toxic. And a lot of people are calling themselves alpha this and alpha gym and alpha. A lot of people are jumping on it. And my friend Lorraine, who'd given me the whole meme afterwards, had a unique heart condition, tricuspid atresia, and she ended up passing away. But she was one of the longest surviving people with this heart condition. And I didn't want to lose something of what she had given me in the name of naming my company and what I'd achieved from, surviving the events that I had. And so rather than losing the wolf aspect, that's where we went from alpha and the pack and all that there to Iron Wolf. That, we sort of rebranded ourselves to still represent something of the wolf, something about the pack, and being as strong as a pack and all of that. So it's still a wee nod to Lorraine and Paddy.
Excellent.
It's funny that with alpha, I think like, because there's some people who think they are, and then they say, if you have to say it, you're not, for a start. But also, I reckon it's like the mindset of it, they start at A and they go, oh, that sounds good, and don't get any further.
Yeah. This is it.
Yeah, no, that's great. So what came? So what came first was the academy, and you were, like you say, you were doing this, teaching your courses at various kind of venues and gyms and things. But like you say, you're at the whim of them, whether they wanted to open or not, or how, I don't know, I suppose how the gym was laid out, how clean it was, all these kind of things that were out of your control. But you were doing business in these places, and just from knowing you not incredibly well, but spending quite a lot of time with you over a couple of kind of trips, I know that you are very very thorough, very professional, very precise, very, you know what I mean, you want things done well, you're not going to cut corners and that sort of thing. So is that when you decided, like you say, well, I'll just open my own place and have a gym and run the courses from there, and then you're in full control of everything? Is that the kind of, was that the thinking?
100%. I have a lot of tism. So like that idea of having that capacity to control the environment in which I offer the courses, when I'm looking around and seeing things that don't set well with me, and I wouldn't, and you have to eventually say, like, you want to model what it is that you expect these students to go off the course, and you can't always control that. So I thought it'd be great if I had my own gym and I could, model what I want these students to go off and do outside in their own careers and stuff like that. So yeah, so guess what? I opened my gym in I opened my gym in October 2019, which was fabulous.
Good timing.
And yeah. So I opened the gym in October 2019 with my life savings in here. It was wonderful. And Magnus came over, I think, on the 1st of February to do the sort of like proper ceremonial opening and stuff like that. And Dan John had come over as well to help me with the opening, and which was fabulous. And of course, then when did we close? 1st of March for COVID.
Yeah.
With my life savings closed, and it was crazy. It was a real difficult time in many ways, financially, emotionally, it was devastating, So I had literally expanded my business in the most inopportune time, So, and I think there's a lot of learning there. I was such, I think I'm a real technophobe. I'm real crap at technology. I use it as much as I need to. I mean, I'm still a notebook and pen. I'm still a writer. All my clients' work is still in jotters and booklets that I make up for them because I want to note it down at the time. I don't like technology getting between me and my clients. And I think I really missed a trick of jumping on to stuff the way other people did. They really used COVID as an opportunity to become very they were very astute and very slick and getting involved with the whole technology of things. And I think I think I've learned from that. You know, I could have handled the whole COVID thing much better. I think I dug down instead of reaching up and out. You know, so I think I
As
had
well,
dug
I
in.
suppose, like you said, with I presume that the kids were quite young then,
Yeah,
still, you know, so and they were. I don't know what it was like in Northern Ireland, but the schools here were mostly sort of shut and stuff. So you've got homeschooling and you've got looking after them, and just the whole world just kind of was turned upside down, wasn't it? So,
absolutely.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like, no, I tried my best. I did things like, like Zoom classes and one-to-ones on Zooms and stuff like that, and tried some of the qualifications on Zoom and try to keep things going a wee bit. And like, it did the job to get me through,
Mm.
but I really don't feel like, I made the most of my business until COVID really ended. And then I feel like I survived COVID,
Mm.
but possibly missed an opportunity to thrive, of really getting out there, getting myself out there, doing socials, blah, blah, blah. Um, I was,
A lot of places though didn't even survive, did they? So,
well, that's true.
you got
Yeah.
to see that as and it is in the past now, but you did survive it. And it
Mm,
wasn't like you had a business that was highly established when it happened. You know, you weren't in business for 5, 10 years when it happened.
yeah.
You've been in business for a couple of months, you know. So
Yeah.
to actually be in business for a couple of months and survive it, come out the other end, and then, like you say, grow massively after that is is certainly a an achievement, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I'm sort of building towards, I think it's why I moved away from the qualifications sector, So I felt like I really tried, but I found it very, very difficult to offer the qualifications in the way where I really, when it comes to qualifications, I really believed in, in-person training and not online qualifications. I really have back in the day, I had a real bugbear against these online qualifications. I mean, there's a massive difference between a PT that goes on an online course and a PT that comes in and does their full course in person, to the wee nips, the wee adjustments. And as you say, I'm quite pernickety and tismy. I want it done right. But I think that my point about it was if you're going to pay relatively the same amount of money for an online course to an in-person course, obviously the benefit is the in-person course. Um, you know, that the students deserve the opportunity for the best opportunity for learning for a good career, because my feeling is, again, when people come in to a PT, I mean, first of all, very few people ever ask to see qualifications. You very rarely, and so there's a lot of people out there that aren't even qualified to offer, and there's a big difference between qualifications and certifications and who's qualified and who's not qualified, and the standard of those qualifications as well. You know, um, my feeling about PT is you're about to load somebody's spine through squat, bench, deadlift, you're loading somebody's spine and you need to really take responsibility for that, And also people come to you for rehabilitation, So again, you need to be top of your game to really know what you're doing, that you're not going to do any harm or, make things worse. And, if you're going to load somebody's spine, then doing that online is just, for me, not an option. You need to
Mm.
be an in-person course to really learn how to squat. And
Mm.
again, it's an awful thing to say, but not many people know how to squat well.
Mm.
Not many people know how to deadlift well,
Mm.
and they're core, fundamental compound movements that everybody should be able to do. And we
Mm.
should be able to teach within 5 minutes, really,
Mm.
So You know, I really did not get on well with transitioning to online status during COVID with the qualifications. So I found that really challenging, really, really difficult to try and keep up with, and still offer the kind of course that I wanted to offer during COVID, with the idea that, look, we'll cover as much as we can in theory, and then once we get to the other side of this COVID, we'll get you in, we'll do the in-person stuff and catch up and do your assessments and blah blah blah, and that was fine. It created a big backlog and stuff like that, but nothing we couldn't handle. But I think for me, the big issue was post-COVID. I think so many people got so used to online courses and online living and online Zooms and online, that qualifications really, the industry has really, really changed. It's not the same. The PT qualification is not the same PT qualification prior to COVID to what it is now. And I think students have changed and students' expectations of courses have changed. And again, I was talking to you about this, James, that I just wasn't sure it was something I wanted to continue to contribute to any further. You know, I was getting, sort of like, you know, I suppose maybe I felt I got a little disillusioned, a little disappointed about the amount of work people were prepared to do for a qualification that is about loading somebody's spine, about taking somebody's health, nutrition, their bodily care into consideration. You know, to me, that's it's a huge privilege to get to work with somebody and load them and put them through a really good program, and that's going to help with their physical activity, their nutrition. But you're affecting every part of their lives. You're affecting their home life. You're affecting, everything you do as a PT, you're affecting that individual. And I felt like post-COVID, the qualification had become watered down, trivialized. Sure, it's just a PT qualification. I'm just here for certificate. I'm just here to get signed off. I've trained for years. Do I have to do
You
that?
get a lot of people who say, don't they? This is one of the most common things people say is they, and this is why it's terrible, because I love attending in-person events still, whether that be certifications, courses, workshops, seminars, whatever. But I like meeting people and being there and doing things hands-on and just being around people. But it's such a common thing. You get someone who comes in to do a course or something, and they're just like, well, I know all of this anyway. I'm just like you say, I just need the bit of paper, you know. So
Yeah,
they walk through the door assuming that they know it all anyway, and they're just going to get the bit of paper that then means they can get them insurance and they can do it. And it's just totally the wrong attitude, isn't it? You know,
absolutely.
it's closed-minded. It's not. Yeah, it's yeah. That's that. But this, I think like I think what you're saying, and just to sort of paraphrase it almost, I think is that you couldn't really teach those courses with integrity, you know what I mean, anymore, because it was kind of not sitting well with your values, was it? And you were just yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I just, do you know what else I was kind of finding as well? You know, a lot of the students, now, again, the majority of the students coming through the doors were fabulous, lovely people, well-intentioned, great values, did the work, worked hard, and have gone on. I mean, the majority of my students have gone on to have fantastic long-term careers. And that's not typical of the industry, because the industry says that within a year, something like 80%, 70 to 80% are out of the industry within a year of their qualification. And it rises to almost 90% within 2 years to 5 years. People are out of the industry. A very, very high number of my students are still, I wouldn't, I would say it's almost the opposite. Almost all of the students that we took through, are still in the industry and have a very successful career.
Mm.
I suppose something else I noticed was that a lot of my students were having a very successful career. And again, I suppose I was sort of thinking, again, I suppose maybe a wee bit of that, those who can do, those who can't teach, and I kind of thought, you know, I'm not, I find that the balance of coaching to teaching I was loving coaching, loving doing my sports massage, loving it, and finding that the teaching part was starting to become a drag. I was disillusioned. And again, you could have a whole class of 10 and maybe one or two would be enough for the course to be quite difficult, challenging. And it was just becoming a part of my life that I wasn't enjoying as much. And I think I am a lifelong, I mean, if you're a coach, you're a teacher, you know, and teacher is coach, coach is teacher, you know, so those qualities in me are always going to be there. I love teaching, but I love being educated. I love learning from people, you know. And then I found I was working with people that were maybe post-cancer, post-stroke, and I was learning as much from them as I was able to offer them. And I was thinking, oh, oh, we've hit on something that I love. Like I feel like I'm never happy unless I'm still in a learning zone, still engaged with education, still engaged with learning. And I found that I was on the other side of COVID, I was less concerned of teaching others and becoming more educated, relearning and becoming educated myself in things that I really found that I was getting a passion for. And I just kind of felt like, you know, running the training academy was a fabulous part of my life. And I had fabulous students and wonderful memories, really good memories. I have some students that will stay lifelong friends. I just, you know, I adore, but I just realized that it wasn't my focus anymore. It wasn't the drive to get me out of bed. But the clients that I was working with that were maybe coming back after injury or coming back after a stroke or cancer, I was just really loving working with those clients and you know, there's something very empowering for me and that client where I'm saying, look, here's the thing. It wouldn't matter how much education I have in post-stroke rehabilitation. That client is the most educated person in themselves and their own recovery, how they feel, what feels good, what they you know, what they get benefit from, and them explaining that to me and me working with, again, my knowledge, my experience, my background, you know, challenging them, asking them to try something different, something new. I find that just, it gave me a new passion to get out of bed. I mean, I've never, since the day and hour of sitting with that sunlight coming through onto my back through those glass doors, and making that decision that I would make the fitness industry, you know, my passion for the rest of my life. It was like, again, a new light, a new fire erupted, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to park education for a while for my own education. I feel like I needed to go back to my roots again, re-educate myself and get that passion back again. And that's where I'm at the moment with it. I'm not going to, I don't think I'll depart forever from the fitness industry or from the education part of the fitness industry. I may in time go back. I might slightly change what I offer. I'm very interested in the idea of developing you know, like workshops for people that are PTs, especially PTs that have maybe gone through on online qualifications and never maybe got either the anatomy and physiology background that they really needed, which is, oh, if anybody knows me, they know that I am an absolute anatomy and physiology geek. Like if I could talk to somebody about anatomy and physiology and geek out for a whole, I will bore you to death with anatomy and physiology. I'm obsessed because unless you know the foundations, how can you make a change to the system? So love it. Love anatomy and physiology. I would love to do like maybe refresher courses for that, or maybe refresher courses on how to take somebody from, you know, go back through their squat, go back through their bench, go back through their deadlift, do those refresher courses, maybe other stuff like accessory exercises, you know, tucking the elbow, things like that, you know, wee things that maybe were missed on the online courses that people could really get involved with. You know, that's something. I would love to write my own maybe courses that would be refresher courses for maybe somebody that's further down the line, maybe wants a wee bit of a top up, you know, that's something I've been thinking about.
So explain, can you kind of explain to me and the listeners what Iron Wolf the gym is like? How did you not the name, but like what do you have there? What's your focus? Who are your members? What kind of things do you do with them? I know it's probably quite broad, but kind of just
Yeah.
paint a picture of what Iron Wolf Gym is.
So Iron Wolf is, gosh, sometimes I think I should have just called it Average Joe's, because it feels like an Average Joe's gym. Like it's the gym for like the underdog, not the body beautiful people that literally just want to come in, train, get better, feel better about themselves, be happy to keep the lights on during fun time, that kind of stuff. Come in, be social, and make a really nice community. So our gym is, we're insured a wee bit differently. So our gym's actually a club. So when you join the gym, you join Iron Wolf as a club. So we have a fingerprint entry system and people come in and come out. We're open every day of the year. So if you want to train Christmas Day, you can come in and train Christmas Day. We're open from 5:30 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And it's literally just normal, average people. We don't have a lot of mirrors in the gym. We try to keep them out of the way. Again, to make it let's be honest, less creepy space, So, and again, I have a whole lot of tisms and tweaky things, but like, again, I'm not a big fan of mirrors behind power racks, because if you need to look at yourself in the power rack for a squat, you're already out of alignment. So I like to teach people how to be in alignment in their squat and never need, to know in themselves and their own body what a good squat feels like and what it,
Yeah,
what it
we've
should.
got no mirrors in racks or anything downstairs at all in all the weights area, because I kind of say to people, you got to have mirrors in real life, you know what I mean, when you're moving around, you have to kind of feel like you say, especially if you're teaching people, like you say, things like deadlifts, squats, whatever. You want them to get that body awareness, don't you, really? Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's a big thing. It's about connecting people back to their bodies. Because again, that's why a lot of people come to PT, is because they're not connected to their bodies. They haven't, and they need somebody to help coach them and connect them back to that.
Mm.
And again, even if you think of a client that's post-stroke, it's because maybe little bits of their bodies have shut off and they need connected back to that to try and get movement back into it. Or people that are post chemotherapy, again, that's massive changes in their body and their systems, their immune system, everything, by connecting them back to their body again. So yeah, I think that's a lot of basis of what I do, is trying to connect people with their body and get them, you know, um, more more fluent in how they interact, and again, getting their bodies to move, especially in big compound movements. That would be my passion. Once my clients get established with a good program, very few of them need me to stand over them as they do like a tricep pull down or a bicep curl. They don't need me for that, but they need me for the big compound stuff, and that's what I really specialize in, is working on tweaking those little bits. So the real or functional movement, or a kind of movement that they've lost that we want to regain, that's the kind of stuff that we really focus our time on.
Yeah, that's excellent. And in terms of because I mean, I know as well that you're a power lifter yourself, So, when did you first, train to compete, or how long have you been involved in powerlifting as a sport, as an activity for yourself,
Yeah. So I I think it started off more with the sort of strength and conditioning side of things. I sort of got pulled into the sexy S&C life. I was very bowled over by it. And at this point in my career, I'm like, less about S&C. I think a lot of it's awful or crap, or, some of it is great. And other parts of it, I'm not invested in anymore. It's quite a lot of it. I mean, there's a time, oh God, I cringe. There's a time that I would have told you that uh, a hex bar deadlift was as good as a deadlift. Oh, the shame. I really don't believe that at all. Uh, if you think they're the same thing, no, they're not. I just, there's a lot of very strong voices in the strong strength and conditioning world for a long time that push sort of narratives and agendas, and and then I think with a lot more opening my eyes, widening my research, there's a lot of it that, yes, I will cherry pick in the same way as I very much cherry pick from Pilates, but I wouldn't be a believer of the whole of the Pilates, and but I very much cherry pick what I need from any of these fields. There's a lot of people that'll tell you the only thing you ever need in life is Pilates. Again, I would debate that as well. So I started off in the whole S&C sort of thing. I would have been standing there squatting with, chains and thinking I was doing cool stuff and all. And, I was very enamored with myself with this whole S&C thing. It was so sexy, the resistance bands, accommodated resistance, getting into the whole
Just
west
for the
side.
listeners, before we keep coming on about it, just S&C is strength and conditioning, because a lot of people won't, we have people listen, not in this industry at all,
Yeah,
but that was
sorry.
kind of, and it's kind of very much seen as like training athletes and training people for sport, and being dynamic and all that. And it was, I
Yeah,
mean, I remember I did a talk probably 15 years ago. Did a talk at like the Birmingham NEC. I think it was at like a leisure industry week or something, years and years ago. And I sort of said something that like and this was 15 years ago. And I said, everybody wants to be no one wants to be a personal trainer nowadays. Everyone wants to be an S&C coach,
yeah,
It was just kind of, that was just a phase. I suppose it was, there's still, don't get me wrong, there's places and everything, there's a space for everything, and everything has an application and a space. But it was one of
absolutely.
these times where everyone wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach, or just like at one stage, everyone wanted to be a CrossFit coach. It's just
Yeah.
things flow, ebb and flow, don't they, from one direction to the next.
Everybody wanted to be a bodybuilder. Everybody wanted to be a step instructor. Everybody wanted to be a spin instructor. Everybody wanted to be an MUA for a while. So
It's
all these
Dan,
things
Dan
came
John Dan
through.
John talks about this a lot, doesn't he? And he said basically the last course that you did, that's the thing, isn't it? Until the next
Yeah,
course that you do,
until the
and then
next.
that's the
Yeah,
thing. And he's been around long enough to know that it's like, well, I've done them all, and like you say, it's a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of that, whatever
it's just
comes in at
cherry
the
picking
time.
what you need,
Yeah,
and it's having the capacity and the experience to know what your clients need and how to cherry pick what you need for them. And yeah, so so I'd always sort of been into. I was always the girl that was in the resistance area, lifting weights, blah blah blah, and that was fine, and just always blokes around and stuff. So I was always training resistance anyway. I was never scared of it. I was never, you know, even on I did do my insanity years, and and cardio and hits and all of that there, and. Yeah, really got into it. It wasn't until COVID that I really got into powerlifting, started to train, uh, yeah. So my first ever competition, I was really, again, another learning curve. I I missed the opportunity of going in as a rookie and taking the opportunity to do a rookie meet. I was so full of myself that I went straight in. And what did I do? I missed my way in by zero point 0.3 of a kilogram,
Oh, okay.
and was told you can either, go and try and sweat this out, or you can lift as a guest lifter. So I lifted as a guest lifter, my first ever powerlifting meet with NIPF. I think if I had competed, if I had made weight, I might have got second or something that day. So yeah, so my first introduction to powerlifting was a really big lesson. As in, you know what? I would have really benefited from doing a rookie meet and
Mm.
having that opportunity of being a rookie and understanding weight-based, that making weight is really important, and also, making sure that, you know your weight and stuff like that there, So, but I really enjoyed, like, I could have thrown a heads up and never gone back to it, but I did. I competed in for under Northern Ireland drug free for a couple of years as well. And I got best female lifter a couple of times and things like that. So that was nice. And then sort of took a bit of a break for a while. Really was at that stage, I was really focusing on developing the gym and small group PT and stuff like that. So, business got really, really busy and my own training really took a bit of a backward step. And then recently I kind of just got the bug back in again. I thought, you know what, at one stage I thought I would never compete again. And I had actually I tell you what had happened. I put a lot of weight. My mum had passed away, and I put a lot of weight on. And I was up to probably about, I'd say, 78 kilos. And, for a 5'1" person, that doesn't sit off very well. And I was sitting at 78 kilos, and, I was sitting with my dad, and I'd said to him, "Oh, I've made us some dessert here," and he goes, "Oh, I don't need that." And I says, "No, you and me both." And he goes, "Well, you definitely don't need it." Wow.
Was that thanks, Dad? Yeah.
Tough love.
So, yeah, that happened, and we probably didn't speak for a week. But he's the first person to really say to me, he did say to me, "Look, Emma, you're in your 40s. If you don't lose this weight now, you're never going to lose this weight. And think of the industry you're in." And I thought, and he says, "Look, your mum's died." My mum was a big feeder. She was a cook. She fed us. That was part of her way of showing love, was to keep everybody, as an Irish mummy, well fed. And she did that very, very well. And I suppose that's where I went for comfort, was food, as a lot of us do. We all have our ways of dealing with grief. And so that was, so I also had a lovely guy, Stephen Ferris, come up to do a photo opportunity, because my gym was the first gym that was being insured by his company in Northern Ireland. We got gym insurance through him, and we got a photograph, and I saw how big I was, and I was absolutely devastated. You know the way you just see that one photo and you go, something has to change. So something had to change. So of course, what did I decide to do? I thought I would use all the systems that I'd used in the past when I was in my teens, 20s, post-pregnancy in my 30s. I thought these systems would still just be how I would lose weight. In the meantime, Stanton teaching courses, when I would get a little trickle of sweat behind my ear, that end up a big whoosh out of a whoosh of, sweat to the shock of your arse, in the middle of menopause, thinking that all the things that I'd done previously would be the thing that would help me now. And I'd say a lot of my weight gain was possibly related, but not specifically, to menopause and grief and COVID, and my hair was falling out, and I wasn't sleeping, and I wasn't paying bills, and I had a lot of stress going on. So on the other side of COVID, really nailing down with my business, really putting stuff into my business and stuff, and then deciding I was going to re-engage with my own fitness, again, my own journey, my own health. I thought I could just use the same things that I'd always worked previously, and found out tremendously fast that those things don't work. Women in their 40s, our bones, our joints, just do not respond well to HIIT, which is what I would have used a lot, HIIT training, that high impact and insanity and stuff like that. And I found I was extremely fatigued. I was extremely sore. My joints weren't the same. My bone, I wasn't responding. I wasn't getting the same results as I would have previously. And I had to find a whole new way. Also, I suppose a big part of my life as well, with the whole resistance training, was within all of this time, I was diagnosed with a heart valve issue, my mitral valve. I'd always thought that I had an issue, but it turns out it's probably related to a hypermobility condition, where I have like hypermobile joints. I've always been hypermobile. Again, so a lot of the soft tissue issues that I have in my neck and stuff like that, I've always had. I was sort of lined up for spinal surgery and ended up deciding that I wasn't sure that spinal surgery was the way for me. And this is where I came across Dan John. I don't know if I ever explained this to you, James, but
Yeah, you talked to me about, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think you did. Yeah, but carry on. Yeah.
so basically I had done his 10,000 swing challenge and, had found that as a great way of getting fit, getting strong. It was the cardio I needed, it was resistance I needed. And for some reason, it was alleviating all these symptoms that I had. It wasn't just helping me get my body back, but all these other symptoms, this chronic neck pain that I thought I was going to end up having spinal surgery for, had gone away. And I realized that when I videoed myself and analyzed and sort of found out what was going on, that, with the swing as you're coming up and tucking the chin, that these 10,000 swings was giving these chin tucks that was giving relief on the spine. And, and I contacted Dan and I'd said to him, your training has saved my life. It's saved me from spinal surgery. I ended up going over to London to do my RKC with him. And, again, I'm very proud of that. I was one of the only females from North Ireland with that qualification. I love kettlebells, obsessed with kettlebells. That's a whole other conversation. Yeah.
So's my dog.
Yeah. And so there's, so I found resistance training was definitely the way that I was going to have to go. As I've got older, again, with the condition that I have in terms of the hypermobility condition that I have, in terms of the menopause, in terms of obviously in your 40s, you're going to have atrophy, you're going to have bone density issues. The things that I would have turned to were not my solution anymore, and resistance training was always going to be the way to go. So combining some amount of kettlebell training with resistance training, and I have to say, in my 40s, I'm probably the strongest and fittest I've ever been in my life. And most importantly, the reason why I train is to be pain-free and out of chronic pain. And again, even though I've always had a real love and engagement with fitness, I've always had to manage that with chronic pain, so with this neck, that thinking I was eventually always going to end up with spinal surgery. I've decided then that with the resistance training and getting back and really taking it seriously again, I decided I would enter a bench competition over the summer there, just to get myself sort of back into the whole idea of getting under, like starters orders, getting the commands and stuff. And it went really, really well. And I just loved it. So I entered a competition there in, I think it was September. And it was an open competition, and sort of half mistakenly ended up with the Masters bench record at the end of it, which was lovely. It's nice to feel like, as a mum of two, to be walking away from this competition with a bench record. So I'm a record holder here now. I was 5 kilos off the deadlift record, so that's given me something to think about for next year to work towards on a total record. Yeah, so I'd really no business turning up, but off the raw female lifters that day, I came first. So again, as I was saying, off camera to us earlier, you're only a record holder of all the people that have ever tried to do it, and that's why I always say to women, you don't know what you're capable of. I mean, really, at the end of the day, turn up and give it a go. Nobody cares what you lift at the end of the day. Only you care. We were waiting in between lifts and we're sort of like, you go, come on, your turn. Get this lift. And like at the end of the day, I was saying that, I'd taken one of my clients to the comp as well. So I did my lifts in the morning and then he did his lifts in the afternoon. And, I said to, it was a fine day out for the parish, really, wasn't it? It was a great wee day. And then magically ended up, winning it. It was, now there was a girl that did officially win, but she was an equipped lifter. So I see it as different, but she's fabulous. Lauren, she's a fabulous lifter. So I'm not taking away from her at all. But for us non-equipped females, it was nice to be a master's lifter, a wee mum of two, juggling my businesses, turning up to compete again and doing, it was nice. So it's given me something to look towards. I've qualified then for British Masters for next year. So that could be on the list of something to do. I'd like to do that. I'd like to compete. I think it's in Scotland next year. So, so yeah, it'd be nice to go and do British Masters and maybe see about getting, so I have the 3 lift bench. So maybe try the bench competition again, see if I can get the single lift and bench. I'd like to get the deadlift, so like I've had to completely change my training systems. And I feel like having done that and experienced that, it's really nice to bring that then to the kind of clients that I work with, the women that I work with, the small group PT that I work with. Again, I feel like unless you're a coach that's always in a state of learning or willingness to learn, especially about yourself, yeah, I like staying open. I like staying, trying stuff. I would love to. I think I would love to do a female strong woman comp at some stage. I love powerlifting. I absolutely love powerlifting. I would love to do the masters. And again, there's certain amount of, credibility, being a coach that not only coaches it, but competes themselves, that you wouldn't do something that you wouldn't put your clients under those pressures that you're not prepared to put yourself under, that sort of integrity and credibility. I think that's important. But I'm obsessed with strongman. I would love to give it a go and see, but yeah, I mean,
Excellent.
I'm really, really tempted to enter Magnus's powerlifting comp here in February. I'm tempted to head over to that, So
That's it. That's in Iceland, yeah? The one he's doing in Iceland, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that would be fun. Or, and then I was looking at other competitions. Like, I'm just under 60 kilos now, so I'm thinking, what kind of sub 60 kilo comps are there in terms of strong woman that I could do? So,
Yeah.
is that something in the long term that I could do? Because the strongman stuff's just so much fun. It's so much more fun than squat bench. Like squat bench and deadlift is life. It is life, to not to deadlift is not to live, and all that. I totally believe all of that. And like, I'll always be in love with squat. I'll always fight with squat, but I'll always love squat. Squat's my favorite. But, strongman's so much fun. I would love to try it. You know what? The toxic part of me that looks at the guys in Iceland doing their thing, and I'm thinking, like, remember we went over to the yoke and I was like, I could even move that a wee bit. I could get that on my shoulders. That's how toxic I am that I think I could do that,
Oh, so Pete, you're going to say something, I think.
I've forgotten.
You forgot.
Sorry.
No, I think I was just going to summarize everything you just said there quite quickly well, no, because you've talked about a hell of a lot. You've gone through like I was doing this, and then I lost my career, and then I had to do this, and I was this, and then I put weight on because my mum died, and menopause, and it's like, Jesus Christ, that's a lot, right? But what's great is you've obviously passionate about it. You want to learn, you want to teach people, but you still get to a point where you're like, we said about like people learn Pilates, they learn this, they learn that, and then they go, right, like it's this, it's that, and you've done that as well. But then you've got to the point where, and actually having said that as well, lifting weights is the thing. It doesn't matter if it's a kettlebell, dumbbell, barbell, whatever. And it doesn't matter what system it is. It's the system that's right for you. But the weight is the thing that is involved, right? Because all the other stuff is just like the fad of the time. Because people say kettlebells are fad. It's like, no, there's certain ways that you train with kettlebells that are kind of like fads. But the actual kettlebell's been around for hundreds of years. So it's not a fad. It works, right? Same with the barbell, same with everything else. But what I like what you said is great is that you still get it wrong. You were like, right,
Yeah,
I'm in my 40s, I'm menopausal, I've put weight on. This is how I'll get rid of it because it's worked before. It doesn't always work like that, and that's why people need a coach, or people need to be open minded enough to say, right, I'll try something. If it doesn't work, try it for a month or 2 months or whatever. Because the amount of people who say they do something and go, it doesn't work, and they've done it for a week, it's like give it time.
yeah,
So I really like that. You know exactly what you're doing, but you still get it wrong as well. But you'll learn from it
absolutely.
very quickly. So that's
Mm.
brilliant.
I think that's been you know, I think probably the thing, the consistent thing across my career is that, yeah, I have made mistakes and I've learned from them, and nearly, it's kind of like excite. What do they say about failing? It's not failing, it's a second opportunity for learning,
Mm.
and I kind of sometimes I was talking to a girl and she does NLP therapy, and I talked to her about, um, sometimes, you know, I feel a lift, I feel a lift, I feel a lift until I can really get it. And, I think I'm feeling it here first. And she said to me, have you ever reframed that to think that that's your way of learning? Failure's your way of learning?
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay. And having a new perspective on that was like, oh, this is me feeling out to feel that it's safe. What's that other thing that people say? You only argue with people that it's safe to argue with. You only fall out with the people you love, really. Um, again, maybe it's a little bit of that, maybe that's my body's way of learning. So yeah, I sometimes love a little bit of failure because it brings out that gritty side of me that makes me dig deeper and go again or try it again or try it differently. It gives me a new opportunity to try it a wee bit differently. And it seems to be that the clients that stay longest with me, and gosh, some of my clients have been with me nearly, a very, very long time, especially sports massage clients as well. You know, some of the things the reason why we get it right is because we get it wrong first.
Mm. And
You
that's
know,
one of the main sayings in NLP is there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And it's just the
yes,
way that you frame the failure, isn't it? Or there's the what's it, Coach Kavanagh, we either win or we learn, It's just how you frame those fit, like you say, you frame it as what can I learn from this? Like you say, you missed the weight at your first powerlifting meet. Okay, but okay, what do I learn? I'm not going to let that happen again. What do I
oh,
need
that
to
will
learn?
never happen
Yeah,
again.
yeah. So what do I need to learn so that doesn't happen again?
Yeah,
And there's I can't remember, lots of people have said it, but you don't ever really actually learn from your successes. When everything goes well, you just pat yourself on the back, go home and celebrate. But you don't actually really sit down and if you're playing football, for example, and the team wins 5-0, you don't go home and contemplate and go over every little bit of where you could be better. You only go home and do that when you lose, really. How can we
absolutely.
make things better? So no, I think that's a brilliant point that Pete picked up on from you talking, and that and that you've said as well. I think that's something every single person listening, because basically if everyone's getting everything right all the time and never making any mistakes or never failing at anything, they're probably living very safely. Do you know what I mean? Isn't it? It's
Yeah.
only when you sort of push yourself that you are going to make mistakes, you are going to learn from them. But no, this is brilliant. Emma, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, we'll definitely speak to you again because I get the feeling that we could definitely we could go on for another hour here, but I've got to go
We're
back.
not going to ask any other questions.
No, no, I've got to go
I'm
back
such
to
a
work,
talker.
and you've got a client coming into the gym, I know, and
I've got things to do tomorrow.
brilliant. Well, what we will say is thank you, Emma. That was lovely, and we will, like I say, we'd love to speak to you again. That was great, and a lot of the stuff, there I didn't know myself from even though we spent quite a bit of time together talking. Some of that stuff I'd never heard, which is brilliant, and we just got to say Merry Christmas, haven't we, Pete
Yes.
and
Oh,
Emma? Merry
oh, oh,
Christmas,
oh.
everyone.
Yes.
Okay, so Merry Christmas, everybody, and thank you very, very much for watching and listening all this year. We will be back though again, obviously, for Boxing Day, we're going to have another episode out, aren't we? Yeah. So we'll be back with you again, like I say, Boxing Day when you're doing the washing up or whatever. Put us on in the kitchen, have a little listen to me and Pete and whoever else we got on Boxing Day. Please do like, share, subscribe. Leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, especially if it's Apple Podcasts. We're really trying to get reviews on there, and give us a 5-star review on Spotify and follow us on YouTube as well. Now, Emma, if people do want to follow you, find out more about you and the gym and the gym, and just keep an eye on what you're doing, where are you most active? Are you Instagram? Are you where are you?
We're across we're across TikTok now, and then Instagram and Facebook still for the old fogies.
Hey, how dare you?
I'll take that.
I have to say, I am still a Facebook lover. I'm terrible at Instagram and TikTok, but I am learning. I'm learning.
I have to say, very few people that we have on here, because most of the people we speak to are, like we've got, your Dan Johns and your Mark Rifkins and, lots of people in their, 50s, 60s, 70s on. So I reckon there's only about a handful of people we've had on, Pete, who are on TikTok a lot. Is there?
I can't remember anyone.
Most people.
I just like Steve Gardner. Steve Gardner's what, 69 or something?
Yeah.
And he basically just posts pictures on Instagram with nothing else, just a picture, and that's it. That's what he does. It's brilliant. He's got no idea how it works.
Random old pictures, aren't they? But
yeah. It's like his family photo album or something.
Yeah, it's great. So on Instagram, you are at Emma Brennan _Iron Wolf. And
you can get me on there. There's also I think Iron Dog Wolf Gym. I'm rubbish at this stuff, but yeah, you'll find Iron Wolf Gym in Northern Ireland.
Yeah,
but through me anyway. Emma, is it Emma Brennan _ Iron Wolf?
That's on Instagram. Yeah, that's what I've got you on Instagram. Yeah, brilliant. No, that's great. And yeah, like I say, we'll definitely speak to you again. I hope you have a lovely, Christmas, lovely New Year.
And you.
And look forward to seeing what you get up to next year. And if you certainly if you go out to Iceland and do the Magnus powerlifting in February, that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely. I'll let you know. Thank you so much for having me on. I've really enjoyed it. It's been lovely. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas, and we will see you on Boxing Day. Bye-bye.